Welcome to Threatcast. Today we're going to hear from Faraz Dapoudi, CEO of SecurityHQ Global SoC Operator that we've been working with for almost 10 years. You're going to hear about what are the benefits of having a SoC operation, how to discuss SoC operations at an executive level, what are the keys to success of running a high-powered SoC team, and the Armageddon moment, what's coming next. Now Faraz, you're 20 plus years in cyber, running and building SoC operations. For over 18 of those years, and now you're running global SoC operations with over 500 employees. Where did it all go wrong?
That's a long story. I think basically we got into the space when it wasn't nearly as complicated as it is today. You know, you've got to put some context on it. When you say 18 years, and I know your listeners are probably thinking, he doesn't look that old.
He's old and looks, he is.
Back in the day, when I was trying to sell a managed security service to my customers, and the first 2 years, nobody bought a thing. They were like, I've got my antivirus, I've got my firewalls. I don't see any threat. I don't see anything. You know, we're talking about, it was just basic antivirus was stopping the most basic of attacks that we would laugh at right now. You don't even hear the term antivirus that often nowadays.
Yeah.
So 2 years, nobody bought it. But we knew the guys on the inside, and, I wasn't alone on this, that this was going to get very complex very quickly because the opportunity to make so much money by the criminals out there was just too good to miss. And the fact that they don't get caught, the fact that there's no laws covering them, that, he's talking about 1 in 1,000 actually ever does any prison time. Or even, the worst inconvenience they get blocked. That's literally it. And they just go somewhere else. So the complexity went, and then as the business grew, and the tide rises all ships, as they say.
Yeah,
we were very lucky at SecurityHQ that we made a lot of mistakes as we went, but we actually became a lot more complicated. I started with 1 employee, now to the stage of where we're at, and just because of complexity, we could reinvest and take the money in. That's basically how it started. And honestly, when I started this business, Colin, I never. Like anybody who starts a business, I never knew whether it was going to work or not. I was just willing to give it a try.
Yeah, and wow, has it turned around? I mean, you talk about antivirus and stateful packet inspection firewalls, how we've moved on. I mean, I can't avoid it. We're going to have to talk AI. Okay, we're going to have to. What impact is AI having and the automation having on SoC operations?
I think people are starting to get over the Rubicon moment where they thought it was going to be the printing press, the new printing press, and it's going to change everything in our lives. I think the intelligence people are understanding, no, but it's going to make life a lot easier. It's just going to allow you to do more with less. So I was chatting with a friend of mine who's not a technology person. I was saying, think of it more of an electric screwdriver. You can do a lot more screws, basically. You can just do it a lot quicker now instead of doing it manual-wise. How we've used it at SecurityHQ is actually really on the low-end stuff, on making sure our ticket quality is better, automating a lot more of the low-end stuff. The idea that, and there's certain companies I won't mention, but some big security companies who say one day a SOC will be fully automated, I think that's for the birds. I think it's absolutely, utterly nonsense. We have started to see a lot of the perpetrators using AI, and we detect a lot of that now, but not at scale. And that's when we have to see. And this is the problem with security, Colin, right? We actually are very reactive as a business. We all are. We have to let the bad guys do something quite bad, and then we develop solutions incredibly quickly just, to combat that. It's one of those things. But I would say this, perpetrators are within your network sometimes 8 to 18 months before they launch an attack. They're just sitting in your cupboard of your bedroom just to scare people out there. And they're just watching, or they're not watching, but they're there because they've got so much to do to get there. Now, so they're looking at AI tooling just to make them a lot more efficient. They can attack a lot quicker. The same as I'm, in my business, looking to do more tickets, better quality, faster, using AI. Is it going to be the Rubicon that's going to stop cybersecurity? That is truly laughable. That is truly out there as an my father, who's 85, he laughs at it and he goes, there's no difference when the photocopier, the PC, or the fax machine, we all said it was going to change anything anyway. Didn't change a frigging thing. I still went to work, he said.
I like your electric screwdriver analogy. I mean, okay, you can do an awful lot more screws, but nonetheless, you're still going to have somebody holding the screw and holding the screwdriver.
Yeah.
So it's a good analogy. So that kind of leads me on to changes and advances. Cloud environments. Okay, it's obviously with COVID it exploded. And people moved to the cloud really quickly. Satya Nadella said it some time ago, what happened in the first 12 months of COVID would have taken about 5 years. And more and more companies continue to move to cloud environments. So how should a SOC change their detection and response strategies in a cloud environment?
That's a really, really complicated answer. But let me give you, remind your listeners this. What is the benefit of cloud, right? Benefit of cloud is that Colin and Faraz could set up a company tomorrow, right? Or right now, and you and I could spin up 20 servers in 35 minutes with one credit card. Not only that, we'll have unlimited processing capability and unlimited storage. So we could build an application, you and I, that could be so successful. Or as the subscribers come in from the business, our cloud just grows per customer. Or the old guys like you and me, we'd have to go buy those servers, watch them very carefully. When they run out, go spend some money, go get some more, then find it. And it was this is a totally different thing. You can spin up and spin down with the cloud and bring in all that powerful tooling as well. Now, from a security viewpoint, that is a real challenge because you've got such a dynamic environment and your threats kind of surface, your attack surface is expanding so much that you're bound to leaving doors around. Our traditional tools that we used to use, and even the SIM tools that we use at the moment, are no longer quite fit for that purpose. They need to be way more cloud native. And Colin, from your experience, when you're talking to cloud engineers, they speak a different language. It's like American and English, right?
Yeah.
UK and Ireland, we talk a certain type of English. Americans do speak English, but it is, if you know what I mean, we have to change our analogy. There's little nuances that can make a massive difference on it. So when we've invested in our cloud team, a friend of mine actually said to me, he goes, when you build a cloud team, you make the same mistake everybody else does. You'll build it in your office and you'll soon realize that they're not compatible. And then so we ended up retooling again to make sure that we had pure cloud play engineers. People who, what we say in our business, born in the cloud. It's very hard to get guys like me who were not born in the cloud to become cloud engineers. We just can't change that. But it's extreme. I think the cloud thing is only just starting, by the way. I don't think it's nearly there where it was going to be going. We're seeing all our customers going multi-cloud. They're not on a single cloud. We've seen what Microsoft has done with Azure, which is extraordinary. Way more in Europe than actually in the US, by the way, out of interest. They are way more taking that space as well. And with the acquisition of Wiz by Google, that $32 billion acquisition, it shows where Google was banking on the cloud going forward as well. So that's where all the money's going. It's all going cloud. It's all going SaaS. And so, enjoy the ride.
So, interesting. So, talking about money, one of the things they talk to salespeople all the time, and a challenge when they're in talking to clients, prospects for security operations, it's like, how do I measure my ROI? It's almost delivering an insurance policy to a degree, or insurance cover, but what's behind it? So, as a CISO, I'm Joe CISO. How do I demonstrate the ROI to my board?
Or I don't think it's as difficult as you think. I don't think it's an insurance policy. I'll tell you what, I would say to you, if you were to come on board with SecurityHQ, I'd say, okay, write down, Colin, exactly where you are, be honest, where you are, what you're missing, and write it down on the two following contexts: the capability to detect and then the capability to respond. So divide your paper in that and that. Write down what it is today, okay? We always spend so much time, sales guys, like your good self, Colin, like me in a degree, we'll talk tech. That's all about detection, okay? Response, we don't really touch on. We kind of say, because, but you think about it, right? If you're running a network and you're going, hold on, I got my Palo Alto firewalls and I'm looking at my dashboard there. I've got my endpoint, I'm looking at my dashboard here. Then I've got all this tool, whatever tool I've got here, I'm looking at the dashboard. And they're all saying three different things, okay? If I come under attack, they all go red. Or then who's going to deal with it now? Who's actually going to have that skill set to do it? And that's your response.
Yeah.
And I think that is a moment where clients realize, goodness me, I've got some real gaps here. I'm not going to be able to handle that. So then when you choose a provider, such as SecurityHQ, and you go, okay, this is how I started, then you start measuring how you're going to the gym and you're improving against those same timelines. I think you'll find your investment has a significant return, And it's no different. It's no different, Colin, if you stopped eating your fish and chips and 8 pints of Guinness a night, and you actually start going into the gym, you go, well, there's no return. But there is when things go wrong, yeah? There is some seriously life-changing returns. And it's no different the way you treat your network. You are a product of what you build. You're a product of how you maintain it. You're a product of how you're ahead of it. So it's not an insurance policy. It's just good business.
It sounds like something from calisthenics. As you know, after a week, you'll feel it. After 2 weeks, you'll see it. And after 3 weeks, other people will see it and notice it. And it's, that type of journey.
So if you see an alarm, so you have a provider, and a month later, you see a bunch of alarms you never saw before, you might think this is really worrying. But actually, it's a looking good thing, isn't it? That you've actually seen that. Because you saw something you didn't see before. Don't worry about what you know. Worry about what you don't know.
What you don't know, yeah.
By the way, let me say this as well. If you're not seeing an improvement when you have your MDR SOC provider, you need to move your SOC provider. That includes us. You're supposed to hold them account, make sure it's working and sweating for you. Don't put up with nonsense. Don't. You work too hard for it, and it's too important. This is not an inconvenience. This is your network. This could bring down your business. So it's a really serious topic.
We always talk about getting into the trenches together and shoulders to the wheel, client and ourselves. And when I say ourselves, I'm talking about, SecurityHQ and ThreatScape in the trenches with the clients. So in terms of the SOC, how do you stay ahead of emerging threats? Obviously you've got the SOC operations across Australia, South Africa, Middle East, UK and the US. So something might happen in Australia, something might happen in the States, and I get that geo sharing, you're hitting, but these 0-day emerging threats, how does the SOC deal with that?
It's again, number one, look at your own track. We're blessed by having hundreds of clients around the world. So we see what they see and don't ignore it. That's actually the first thing. And to answer your first question, how to get ahead of it, our threat intelligence has to be really good. Now, let me touch on threat intelligence, okay? Threat intelligence, you can drink from the fire hose of the most nonsense, out of date. You can subscribe from the stuff you get from the firewalls and all of that. Most of it is already covered with your last patch update, okay? There is that stuff. But if you work hard, you can be a little bit ahead of the game. So when Windows does a 0-day patch on you, that kind of stuff, and understand that, that's really, really stage one. Stage two is actually where you get way more proactive. You're doing a lot of more monitoring of the dark web, CNAPP services, cloud posture stuff. That's you not sitting in your castle with a big wall around it. That's you actually going into the woods and actually doing patrols and actually seeing what you're doing. Constantly measuring your attack surface, looking at threat actors, looking at what they're doing. Now, I get our customers are not cybersecurity people. It's not their job. They could be a pharmaceutical company, making bottle tops, whatever it is. That's not their job. But they should always know where they are, the threat. And by us looking at the threats, then we look at the IOCs, the indicators of compromise, and understand how these guys operate. Then that's how we do it. That's why we have a dedicated incident response team. It sounds I've dropped a lot of logos here. It's actually, though, guys, it's the most interesting bit of our job. The threat intelligence bit is the bit, the report I enjoy reading the most because it's like Newswire, right? It's like watching Donald Trump. Every day there's something new coming in. You mentioned AI, I got to mention the Donald.
I want to step into regulation for a minute. So the European SecurityHQ SoC is in London, which we visit on a very regular basis. There's a team there. How does that impact business in the EU with the likes of GDPR and other data privacy regulations?
So all governments, and it doesn't matter whether you're the government of Ireland, the government of Finland, or you made it very clear to your enterprises both government and non-government in your country, that the government is no longer responsible. Not only are we not responsible for securing your network, if you don't take care of your network, we're going to fine you. We're going to fine you, and we're going to fine you against GDPR up to 4% of your revenue. And even in extreme cases, if you lie and blah, 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 you're going to become more compliant. Traditionally, only two sectors were really under governance, financial and government. Now that's no longer applicable. It's going to be everybody. You could be a big bakery in Ireland, and you're still going to have to follow code and practice. After the Brexit issue, a few years ago, they realized that one of the first legislations they did was to do a data processing agreement between the UK and the EU. Why? Because of all the banking systems. It's not, even airlines, everything is so integrated. It was impossible to section that off. So they very quickly said that. So the laws that are covered from you being an Irish customer, even though your data is stored in the UK, are fully applicable. And every lawyer knows about this. Every judge does this. And that it's a fully integrated system. As long as your data sovereignty, where your logs are being kept, within country, it's not always applicable to everybody. It's way more applicable for highly regulated organizations. But like I said, if you and I opened up a global business, then it's not so applicable because you'll say my data is everywhere. My point is, though, I would say to customers out there, compliance is not painful. It's actually a really good roadmap of what you want to do, right? Your NIST framework, your SoC frameworks, whatever you choose. It's actually a really good base study to even judge companies like us. Hold on, the framework says this. Let me run a tick exercise of what we've got in place. And all these compliances are fundamentally based on log collection, you're keeping your logs, and the capability to detect and respond. I use the term capability to detect and respond because that is no different if you're running a castle in the 13th century in Ireland, or your lord, or if you're running his army, would say, can you detect and can you respond? It hasn't changed, and it will never change in security. It wouldn't change even with drone attacks or whatever it is. Can we detect them and can we respond? Will always be the question.
Or detect and response. Okay, so well, speaking of detect and response, what are the key technologies, say, in a next-gen SOC? What do you rely on to run that operation?
We always use a SIM, right? And a SIM is a tool that collects all these logs, it correlates alarms, and features. You can add all these specialist use cases and threat intelligence. And that's a webinar on its own, right?
Yeah.
It's highly complicated. Then you have a bunch of other tools you put on top of it. It does vary from the client's environments going forward. Now, clients choose their environments, not the security team, okay? Infra chooses that. So for instance, I would never turn around to a customer and say, so you're on Azure, let's move you to AWS, let's get rid of your firewalls. He'll just go, it's just easy to get rid of you, really, isn't it?
Okay.
Absolutely, it would be. So the clients choose their environments, and their environments are highly dynamic because they're always changing. Everybody's going through a digital transformation of one time, an upgrade or something. Now, going back to your original question, depending on your environment depends what tools you use. So when we talk tech, right, the way we do an AWS customer or a hybrid Azure AWS customer or a pure on-prem slightly changes. The principles don't change. We'll just use a different tool set. Most of our customers don't want to see how the sausage is made. They'll just say, just do it. Just go ahead and do it because I need to get up and running. I want an SLA. I want a 15-minute SLA. I want to see the constantness of those alarms coming in as well. Another thing I want to slightly digress, Colin, if you allow me, right? Here's the thing with tech vendors. They'll never have this discussion with you, right? 60 to 70% of breaches occur through misconfigurations. And it doesn't matter what tool you have. That's very hard to stop. That's the beauty of when you have a SOC, is that those 60% will see the unusual behavior and we'll still have the capability to detect it, even though there's misconfigurations. I remind your listeners, when the CIA and the FBI and JP Morgan and all these giant companies get hacked, you think they didn't have firewalls? You think they didn't have the next gen? They had it all. They still got it. They still got hit. Why? Somebody made a mistake. It happens. And it happens you always have the human element, right? It's always the human person.
Look, we see it in, misconfigurations, a missing patch, and, patching is really easy. Again, patching can be an absolute nightmare depending on the environment, and particularly see it in the likes of healthcare and manufacturing. It's just real challenges. Another thing that we often talk about is the personnel. Being a SOC analyst isn't the sexiest job in the world. Okay, let's face it. Now, the SOC analysts might disagree with me out there going, what do you mean? I love my job. Okay, I'm not a technical individual. But, what qualities and skills do you believe are essential for SOC analysts, and particularly the leaders, to be successful?
Or I would say it's not like, I'll tell you what it's not like. It's not like the movies. It really isn't like, it isn't really isn't like, we have all of that, right? We have all the big screens, we've got all the clever people, we've got all the beautiful colors and all that kind of stuff. But actually when an incident happens, and again, healthcare is the same. When they do a movie like an ER, everybody's running around. In real life, it's not like that at all. It's highly controlled, process driven. It's very calm. People are not screaming and shouting. They're just doing their job. And you need to get out of the way and let them do their job. That's how it actually is. How we attract our SOC analysts, and as you say, staring at a screen in a dark room, and it literally is there in the dark room. Our SOCs don't have windows, a lot of them. And why do they love doing it? They love the chase. Because when you work for SecurityHQ, you're dealing with 10 to 12 incidences a day, significant ones. The thousands of alarms. I mean, we're talking about petabits of information come through our pipes. I think we're at 800,000 alarms a day now. So it's huge.
Yeah.
They love working for us because they enjoy the front line. They enjoy the cold face. Or when you join that SecurityHQ, you either become a SOCer or you go a different route. There's many different routes within the company. It's a certain type of person that is. They're generally very skilled, very clever, but quite quiet. They talk to their computer a lot, which is and they love, the weird thing is they're very friendly with each other. They have their own ecosystem within that. And you can imagine, we all know the types. I'll tell you one thing though. They're one of the most, they have this inability to have, integrity is incredibly important to them. And that's not something we teach, something they know. I have never in the 20 years ever had a SOC out tell me something he's seeing, like he's showing off, ever. To them, that's their clients. They have that doctor-patient kind of responsibility.
Humble.
Yeah, and I'm sure Colin, I mean, you've spoken to a lot of our staff over the years. They don't brag about what this guy's surfing or anything. They don't do that. That's not their job. They're very proud of what they do because we do good work. I mean, look, we're not medicine some from hell, but we're also not, we're protecting people's customers. Yeah, we get paid for it. So, we're not charity. But we do good work. And the thing is with the youngsters today, that's really important to them. The younger generation are different to our generation. But one of the things that's really important to them, they love tech. They love doing good stuff. And they get to show off to their friends because they're in cyber. So it's quite cool. But all their friends so happen to be also in cyber because that's the world they live in.
Just stepping forward a little bit, you're a business leader, okay? You need to employ strategies to build and maintain, a high-performing SOC team. Can you share with us, because either, some of our listeners might be considering doing it themselves within their own business, or they're considering third-party partners such as ourselves to bring into the business. What strategies do you employ to have that kind of that high-performing SOC team?
It's all about scale, right? The difference is, so somebody said, what is the real secret source of SecurityHQ? Or they would presume I'll tell you about some special piece of technology. It really isn't. The real secret source of SecurityHQ is be able to do what we call a multi-tenancy, right? You can build your own SOC and you can build a pretty good one for your one customer. When you do it for 200, it's a very different thing, right? But I would say to you, the thing is with the 200 customers, like a VW, it'll start every time, it'll work every time, because it's just been engineered out, all those issues, instead of the kit car you built at home, which looks nice, but it's always making, you got those 6 screws left over and you don't know where they came from. That is our challenge on how we do that. Yeah, the AI screwdriver. I don't know if that answered your question. I think I missed a bit of it. What else were you saying?
No, yeah. 'Cause the key strategy is really, because you've got a high performing team, you've got to keep them engaged. One of the things that we've discussed a couple of times, the academy that you run as well.
Yeah, it's all about people.
Bring them, yeah, the people and the process. The tech is secondary.
The tech comes and goes, right? The tech comes and goes. And the tech is really important. But Colin, you and I know the tech we'll use today will be completely different in the next 2 or 3 years' time. We're already working with the emerging stuff coming through. And the other stuff we have multiple sunset projects, they're called, where we're actually downing tech and actually exit out of our business. That's natural. But people come to SecurityHQ because of our people, right? And the appetite of those people and their skill set, that's what they really come for. Why? Because in the middle of the night, they want to know the cavalry is coming over the hill and they're going to stay on a call if required. 36 hours is our record. We did one this week, 20-hour non-stop call for an Indian customer. 20 hours, but 36 is still the record, where they go, these people, they never left a call until we got that ransomware sorted out. And we just got it cleaned up, sorted out, get them up and running. It's just good business. I'd love to say it was the tech, but the tech stops as soon as the attack happens. Then it's the people very quickly.
You mentioned there a minute ago about the tech changes, and Google made their announcement they're acquiring Wiz for $32 billion, which is just unbelievable. Microsoft, they've had Sentinel out for a number of years, but they seem to have turned a corner in probably the last 18 months with it. Are you seeing more and more clients asking about Sentinel?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the world basically will sit between, I mean, I've been saying it for a while, it's AWS and Sentinel, and they're slightly different. You can't really compare. It's really strange. Once you actually understand them, Microsoft is a great option, particularly for Microsoft E5 licenses on the larger enterprise. I'm not sure it's that competitive for the more mid-sized range. That opens up a different set of options. That's changing. But the world will be owned by AWS and Microsoft. They already own it. Google is coming late to the party, right? And Google has it has a lot of money. They just demonstrated that. I mean, that $32 billion, Colin, they took it off cash. They didn't raise their fund. They just went down to the ATM and just, stick it on my tab, why don't you? They've got that. But Google also has something that is no other tech company has managed to do yet. You use it every day. Capability to search on everything on Google, whether it's maps or whatever it is, you use it every single day. That federated search that they do is incredibly powerful. But they didn't bet on doing the same tech. They betted on doing cloud. And that's where they're going to go as well. I think the world will be probably 30-30-30 between them. And then there'll be some smaller players out there as well. The next thing they'll bring is that they all bring their own AI, right? Bedrock out of AWS, Copilot from Microsoft, Gemini, I think it is, with Google, is it? Or something like that. Yeah, the Android. So nobody's going to build their own AI tools. They're just going to use one of those three. For us as a company, we don't care. Whatever our customers choose, it might be right for them. It might be the right price point. It might have better toolings. It might do whatever it wants. And it'll be one of those three main environments.
Okay, and speaking of customers then, how does the team ensure effective communication, collaboration between the SOC and the customer's IT team? Because we always talk about that partnership. How does that...
You remember years ago, we used to talk to potential customers, you and I, and we used to convince them that we weren't firing their security team, right? Now customers realize that nobody's getting fired. We're actually going to allow the security teams and the IT to actually do their job. Because we're going to give you the 20 alarms today that you need to go focus in on, and you go focus in on them and come back to us, and we're here to help. The collaboration is constant. It's daily if you want it. It has to be a weekly call with what we call a CSC, so a cybersecurity consultant. He or she will act as the tip of the spear to have the army of SoCs behind them. So you're not calling different people. And also really important, I don't know what it's like in Ireland, but in the UK, when you call something like British Gas, you have to take a big breath because you're repeating yourself 20 times. They put you on hold, then they drop the call, then you have a fight with your wife, and you have to start all over again. Okay? then they block your credit card. And you generally have one of these kind of moments. We recognize that early, that they should always talk to the same person, the same account manager, the CFC, because that is the point. So you'll see your alarms every day on the SHQ response platform, or whatever, that's how you do it. Then you have that weekly call. But at any point, that communication is not, oh, let me check in. Oh, I forgot to check. This is a 24/7. Every day you're going to see stuff. Every 10 minutes you're going to see stuff. You're going to see your maturity, your posture all the time. It's not an insurance service. It's a constant service.
When you and I were on a call and we were talking about, going to a hospital with your sick mom or whatever and saying, right, you need to fix my mom. If you don't, we're going to sue you. You kind of go, that's sometimes, but, the pragmatic people understand what a SOC operation does and how effective it can be.
I just want to touch on that, right? It's like when people talk to me about cyber insurance, which is not a bad thing to have, but I always remind them that's after you've been hacked. That's your car is destroyed or there's a fatality. Like, you can't say to your board of directors, oh, I had cyber insurance. They're like, yeah, but I would rather we just never used it. I said, we never got hacked. It's way better to do it that way. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have it, because it could save you a lot of money if you have incident responders on that. Somehow people think cyber insurance will stop you being hacked. And I'm like, no, not really. That's not how it works. That's not how it works.
No, it certainly doesn't. How do you communicate the value or the importance of a security operations center to executive leadership and other stakeholders across client or prospect base?
Or talk risk. Or a lot of, and I've said that to engineers at companies that we work with when they ask me that question. Or if you quantify things around risk equals money to executives at board levels, right? They understand risk. And they understand risk costs money, and risk can cost them their jobs as well. So once they see the value of the alarms, constant, a lot of older guys my age, just don't get it. They just don't understand it. They're like, yeah, but, it's like getting struck by lightning. You're going, no, it's not. No, it's not. It really isn't. It really is. It's not a one-time event or that subliminal moment. When they see the traffic of what they're doing on their networks, and they'll understand it, basically. And they have to quantify that risk and see all the alarms, and then go to bed knowing that somebody's looking at it constantly. And having that feeling that, and then I've got somebody to come in to sort it out. If a customer is really that naive, a board of directors, then you're wasting your time talking to them because he believes the world is flat.
I'm conscious we're nearly reaching time, but I've a few more questions I want to throw at you. So 20 plus years in the cyberspace, 18 plus doing the SOC operations. What did you learn from incidents, and what is that learning? How has it influenced your current beliefs and practices?
In a horrible scenario where you're dealing with major incidences, it's really quite horrible, and your heart goes out to the people you work with. They're quite scared, they're quite worried. And I never want to lose that kind of feeling that we have a huge responsibility as our business to monitor our clients' networks. It's not a responsibility we take lightly. Can't tell you how clever some of these people we're dealing with. The constant pursuit for them to make money or disrupt or destroy is quite something they're ready to go to. And it's constant. And the worst of it, it's not the big companies. It's when they hit the medium, smaller sized businesses who are just totally unprepared and being held to ransom. It's just a horrendous experience, and a horrendous experience for them. So they're getting more sophisticated, as they always are, but so are we. We talk about the Ukraine war, it's on the news all the time, right? We've learned a lot how Russia attacked and deployed, and we were really good at stopping it. The West was really good at stopping it. We had some really good tools. Why? Because finally the technology companies, the big players, started to invest real money into this. But that doesn't mean that China and all the bad boys, Iran, are not doing the same. The games will kind of continue. And people say, yeah, that's good for business. And yes, it is good for business. I'm not going to lie that I'm a business leader. But at the same time, that doesn't mean if you run a network, you can't be complacent. you have to do something. You don't have to do it with us, but you do have to do something.
Yeah, I'm, I often use the phrase every cloud is a silver lining, and certainly in our business, if we're engaged in an incident that means something bad has happened, it's a bit like calling 911. A crystal ball moment for us, 2 decades, what's coming next at us? What do what do you believe is going to shape the future of SOC operations?
I think it'll be when somebody launches an attack at scale using AI, I think that will change the game.
Are we far off that?
We're never far off it. We're never far off it. We all know that as people. We're never far off from complete Armageddon, I think, as a human race. But
that's
a cheery note. But I think the use crystal ball stuff. I think the use of quantum computing is going to be quite something when that happens. That's called Q Day if you're into it, and that's where all encryption becomes decrypted, and that is and compromise for that. Quantum computing is a very powerful computer that can actually do mathematics at an insane speed. They actually exist already, and they're measuring things called qubits, okay? The original encryption was built by RSA back in the day, a 16-bit number, right? This will be able to decrypt this stuff. Or you'll know when somebody's finally used it and cracked it is when the crypto wallets get hacked. That's when you'll know. When you'll know. So watch that stuff coming forward.
We watch that space. Well, listen, for us, time is coming to an end. Thank you so much for joining me today. We could sit here for hours, and talk and bore the pants off some people, and other people will get great nuggets out of it. But I'll take your Armageddon note to bed tonight. Thank you so much for giving me the time today. Really appreciate it. I hope you, our listeners, have enjoyed the conversation with myself and Faraz. We look forward to you joining us on another session of Threatcast from Threatscape. Thank you all again.